there are no real problems. Like
Right.
The problems you think are problems are usually generated by the ones that profit and benefit from the division of the masses.
Well, and then even your own brain and like the perception of like what's happening, right? Like just like your own brain, like your own your problems are in your brain. Like they're problems that you think are problems that really aren't in the grand scheme.
Or they were problems that were given to you.
Or but a lot of them are like in your head. What I was gonna say that's super interesting too is like you're talking about like suffering and like all that, like how it's like kind of like it's. I feel like it's like almost necessary, right? Like so like
Absolutely
in
necessary.
the Bible, right? Like in Genesis, there's like Adam and Eve, and like God tells Adam and Eve or Adam like your life now is going to be toiling. You're going to toil all the time, and everything's going to be hard work for you, basically.
Yeah.
And if you look at like other animals and like a dolphin, for instance, to sustain itself, doesn't have to work very hard. Like it's just a fine fish, and then it can like easily eat the fish. A lion has to work, but like in the comparison, the amount of work it takes for a lion or a dolphin to eat is far less than it takes like a human man in primitive day and age to go find a catch and hunt it and eat it, right?
Yeah.
Way easier, right?
I think
I think that necessity over time created farming, right? And then that gets it just like builds on top of each other because like we're just trying to like work as less as possible, and so this is all the result of what happens when like there's no more work kind of left.
Yeah.
And then isn't it kind of magnificent how we're tearing ourselves apart now, and like if man's like life is supposed to be toiling, maybe hell is like tearing each other apart when there's no more work to be done.
It's a brilliant observation.
I don't know.
That energy has to go somewhere, right? Like the and this is why this gets into what we're doing. It gets into the issues that we see today, is that creative energy, that like assertive, that like that I mean I call it like libido, right? Like the energy that like needs to like kill hunt an animal to eat it, to dig and to plant food, to build a house. I mean, you're not just talking about laying a few bricks on top of one another and then, you know, building legitimate shelter is work. I mean, that takes that's a hard gig. You know,
yes,
to be in a place where we have the front part of our brain has worked all the way to the point where, I mean, even most of the manual labor of producing the infrastructure of our world it's automated, so you don't have. I mean, this is why it's super important to like go to the gym and find a physical. It doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu, but find a physical exercise. Like that shit has to move, and if it doesn't, look at what happened. Look at all the crazy movements that are going on post-industrial revolution, mainly recently.
Yeah.
Because of 100 years of the Industrial Revolution, biologically, like this is what so many people in our in the generations that are alive today don't grasp, is that, you know what, we are so pumped with this like modern history and U.S. propaganda and just propaganda that it kind of blocks off the actual you're pumped with national history and you're not pumped with history as a species. And there's like this weird wall that I've observed in the collective mind where people just kind of like, I mean, everything pre-World War II is like just this fog.
Except for Egyptian history.
But even that is like.
And I guess they do like.
We'll get back to that.
They do Middle Ages too.
But
that's like 6th and 7th grade, right?
Yeah, but I mean, even a lot of that's like manipulated anyway. We'll get into Egypt if you want, because I've been reading Graham Hancock's book, and that guy's got a lot of really like fascinating stuff to say. But I want to finish this. So, anyways, the perspective of us as a species rather than us as a country or as a part of the world or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Industrial Revolution happens about 100 years ago. There's an absolutely 0% chance, it's an impossibility, that biologically, physiologically, psychologically, we're able that quickly to evolve to a world that is now nearly entirely digitized, entirely automated, and we don't know how to react because we're not swimming around hunting fish like dolphin. We're not lions in the pride running in the plains. We're not hunter-gatherers with spears and shit anymore like we were for a long time. We're not doing what we've been doing for a long time. There's no way that we can adapt that quickly. And the solution to all of it is, slow the fuck down. Like, we get so because that's the pace of automation. When the progress is now in the hands of automated processes, it's not. I mean, there's very few people that are working like with their hands and craft. I mean, it's even craft items, knives and stuff like that. Most people aren't crafting that with their hands. There's a whole factory that's doing it.
Yeah.
And so we're living in this world that's like, whoa, we're expected within ourselves we have this energy to work. You don't have really the position to do it. You don't have the world to do it in anymore. There's so many people, right, that it's like it'd be fine if there was no automation, but you have more and more people and you have more and more automation. That means there's less and less things that we need all of those hands for,
Yeah, it's a math problem, dude. And as being a mortgage person, I used to joke, and there's a guy at the gym I joke around with, and say, I'm a numbers guy. And the numbers just really don't work out, dude. But then you also hear about like that there's less people than they need, and then that's a problem too. Underpopulation. And then
in terms of what, like,
in terms of like our generations, like not getting married and not having children and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, those are different issues, and that's like and totally that's definitely its own thing. That it doesn't have as much to do with, and those are valid concerns and valid talking points. But it doesn't have as much to do with like the actual individual awareness that, like, hey, I live in a world I'm not biologically equipped for. That's okay.
Yeah.
How do I now
deal with that information?
How do I find what to do at the pace that I can do it? Like, what is something that I can still be? How can I still be like of service to my community?
Myself and my future children, I think, is the real question. It's like the community's third, dude. Honestly, it's like yourself, and then your future children are absolutely first in your mind before your community. And I think maybe that's where like conservatives and like real hardcore like liberals might differ. Like they might think like, no, your community's first, and then yourself, and then or maybe your kids, and then you, or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think that
like
kinda,
they just have
I think it kind of goes without saying. I mean, that's obviously
their values are just
priority.
they're prioritized a little differently, right?
For sure.